Hey, what's up guys? Luso here with Team D Plus Gaming. We're here to talk to you guys about the ban list. So we have some ideas of what should happen, what could happen, what we think needs to happen.
Yes, we have a lot of thoughts. We've tried it many times. We're going to try to keep this as brief as possible, but we have a lot of thoughts on this stuff. There's a lot of stuff to talk about.
I mean, as with any ban list, there's a lot of cards and a lot of different categories for cards. Like needs to get hit, how decks could get hit or affected.
Things that come back.
Things that can come back. So we're going to start off with things that we think need to get banned.
We're not taking a long time on the obvious. 6 cents of return, we want banned.
Right. I mean,
we don't have to talk much about
complete
that.
luck sack. You can pull them off. You can probably win the game.
Yeah.
And I mean, yeah. Next up, decks that could potentially get hit and how they could get hit. First off, Droolers, Dragon Rulers. I mean, to me, they've had their format. The babies were hit. They've had another format. They need to get hit again in some way, shape, or form. I think the obvious way there would be limiting or semi-limiting the big dragons.
I think they have to either limit or semi-limit. We've had them at 3.
And
at 3 they're too powerful.
I mean, even Tech in, they break open a lot of decks.
They really do. So I think 1 or 2 is the best. If you got 2, you're probably going to still need to semi-limit. Or you're probably going to have to hit
like other
7
cards,
star,
like 7-star.
Big Eye, maybe
I mean,
Ravine. Just some cards that are ideas.
I mean, unfortunately, though, I don't think Big Eye will go all the way to banned. I mean, I can see it potentially limited, but with it getting reprinted with the Battle Pack Wave 2, I don't think Konami will ban it. They'll want that to sell. It's one of the few generics in there.
They've surprised us before, though, so we'll have to see on that.
I think that's true, but at the same time, I think
true.
limit would be a more reasonable way to look at that. I mean, next up, Spellbooks. They were kind of the big number 2 deck last format, and they haven't seen a whole lot of play this format, but this is because Droolers have now been cheap and easy to come across, essentially.
Yep, they are kind of the number 1. They've kind of shown all of these other decks up, so I mean, we're kind of going prospectively on these, because I mean, these are decks that didn't top much this format.
But could
next format.
Like if Dragon Rulers aren't there, these could see a lot more play, and
we'll see what they want to do.
I mean, after last format, Konami took in pre-hit decks, and so we're thinking they might do that again.
Probably.
Like, I mean, they touched Gravekeepers a little bit, they were afraid of that.
Royal Tribute.
They touched Harpy Burn, so that didn't happen. And, like, they killed 3 Axis before it started. I mean, like, they were hitting decks before they could get popular and try and take over. And so I think we could see some of that with this new ban list again. So, I mean, like, Spellbooks, I mean, Fate is broken. That could see a lot of play, especially with now Master and High Priestess getting reprints. The deck could be almost budget, which is kind of scary to think about.
Yeah, and we were thinking probably Fate at 1. Just so, I mean, it's still searchable, still reusable. It just makes it a little bit harder for them to abuse it.
I mean, at the same time, Konami could be a troll like it has done before and just semi-limited to look like it did something, but not really.
I mean, they only play 2, so it wouldn't really do anything. Otherwise, there's Secrets in Blue Boy, which I mean, I think is too integral into what the deck is trying to do.
Right. I mean, neither of those is inherently broken, except for Secrets being able to search Blue Boy. He just says card versus spell. I mean, but beyond that, there's nothing really overly broken there.
Yeah. So I think Fate on that one.
So I mean, next up, Mermails. Those are definitely good, solid. High tier 2 this format.
Yeah, I mean they just have a bad dragon matchup, so we haven't seen them a lot, but we'll see them a lot next format, I'm sure, especially if they don't get hit. But
right, so I mean right now we've got Diva Dragoons hit. The OCG has Teus Sphere. The OCG stayed with Teus Sphere, and I mean to me with Dragoons at 1, the consistency with the deck and like that search power not being there definitely hurt it a lot. I mean I had issues with consistency there and being able to play it. I mean, it could just be me personally, but at the same time, I feel like Dragoons back to 2, maybe Sphere to 2, or some combination of the OCG TCG format.
If they did maybe Dragoons to 2 and Sphere to 1, something
or Sphere to 2,
something like that.
Like some combination.
I wouldn't be surprised they messed with it because they did hit them both in separate ways. Probably just testing that out. We'll see what they have there.
Next up, Constellars and Evil Swarm. I mean, Evil Swarm is inherently busted with Ophion, granted, and Pandemic to save it. At the same time, I mean, that's kind of a boss monster there. And, I mean, the only way you'd have to reuse it if they do hit Ophion would be, like, XYZ Reborn. Which, I mean, to me, I don't think that's the route they would take. Evil Swarm hasn't seen a whole lot of play, at least from what I've seen this format. Constellar I've seen topping more.
See, I think Evil Swarm. I think Evil Swarm Ophion could get hit the 1. I just like that 6-time approach. I think they're going to make you protect that boss monster. I mean, he's got Pandemic to protect him. It happens, you know, when he...
I mean... In a way, I mean, the deck's more annoying when they summon Key Beetle than Ophion.
That's definitely annoying a lot, too. I mean, we'll have to see if they hit Safe Zone or Beetle or something like that.
I would see them hitting Beetle over Safe Zone, because again, Safe Zone gets a reprint.
And if they want to hit the decks in general, they can hit some rare Gurkion to 2. would hurt a little bit.
I mean, next up, Heroes. Without Stratos, Hero Beat is not like a feasible deck, in my opinion. I mean, it has some good plays, but at the same time, like the fact that he was a +1, plus he was another monster. I mean, it's not the same substituting with an emergency call.
E-Call's a good card, but I mean, it's different.
Mm-hmm.
It's not as abusable as Stratos. It still helps to your consistency.
Well, I mean, without Monster Reborn, though, there's not as many ways to abuse Stratos.
I mean, you still have Call on it, which you could use for those +1s, but...
I still doubt that would be run in Heroes.
You know, it depends.
I mean...
With Malicious at 3, I don't think Stratos can come back.
Right, with Malicious at 3, E-Call at 3, and, I mean, Mist Valley at 3 with Heartbeat Burn. I mean...
Birdman's at 1, though.
Right, so you can't go through the full loop, but at the same time, with that, I don't think he's going to be back to 1. But eventually, if they do hit some of those other cards again, I think Stratos could come back and that would help Heroes out. Because Heroes is a deck that everybody likes. Well, not everybody likes to play, but there's a lot of people who do like to play it.
Yeah, there's a lot of like for Heroes. So next up is Harpies. Mist Valley.
Right, and I mean, that deck has a lot of crazy synergy. I mean, especially with Mist Valley going off. In the OCG, Mist Valley is hit, and I could see that happening here, because with Dancer being able to abuse Mist Valley and go from like no field to a full field is really crazy.
See, I would guess they're going to leave it at Birdman. It's the hit to that.
Mm-hmm.
And if they wanted to hit Harpies at all, I think they hit Sign, because that's the card that pluses like crazy.
I mean, it does plus, but at the same time, it gives you the needed hand advantage to be able to keep going, because otherwise it would be like a one-trick pony.
But I mean, you think about it, the Searchers are often the cards they hit. So that's just my thought there. Potentially. Like, if they were going to hit, I think Harpie's going to be a good deck next format, especially if they didn't get hit. I think they'd be a top deck.
I still see... Mist Valley getting hit over that after playing it. I mean, but then again, next up we have plants. I mean, with the Shinra now renamed Sylvan. Okay, archetype.
Okay.
I mean, it's coming up, and that's plants. I mean, this past format we got Mizuki and Plague Spreader back to 2 before the release of Vampires for Zombies support, and so I could see Konami doing something like that for plants. I mean, right now on the ban list there is Glow Up Bulb, Lone Fire, Dandy, Tengu. All hit in some way, shape, or form.
Similar to them, that would help plants if they were...
Right.
I think the most likely candidate is Lone Fire, too. Because I think that could happen. There's also, Dandy could come to 2. I don't think Glow Up Bulb would kill us coming off the list, going to 1. It's a once per duel. You've got to get to the graveyard to use it as free summon.
And it's just like Spore. I mean, Spore was banned. They brought it to 1, brought it to 3 because they realized it's a once per duel. And so I think, Glow Up Bulb could follow the same path. That it goes, okay... comes off the list to 1, didn't break the game.
One step at a time. We'll see if it breaks the game. But I think it's fine at 1. And then Tengu.
I mean, it's great for Synchro decks. It replaces itself, helps you keep going. And I mean, plus Harpies also like to abuse it a little bit.
Yeah, definitely with the Mist Valley is one of the ways to abuse it. But, I mean, I don't think it break the game at 3 either. I don't think it's that I mean, it's hard to use it at 2, which is one of the sad things there. But we'll see.
And so next up, kind of some... things that we could see maybe getting helped by the ban list. Again, 3 Axis was hit before it even could get started. And so Spirit back to 2, even if they limit or semi-limited Rooster. I mean, just some support for Fire Fist because it hasn't done anything this format at all. Yeah,
3 Axis died when they hit Spirit. You need more than 1 Spirit. I think it'd be best at 2 if they don't want it at full power like when it was at 3. Which to me, it still wasn't that crazy. It was good. Yeah. It was definitely good. But I don't think it definitely didn't deserve it.
I mean, like, even at full power, I can see it being low tier 1, high tier 2 type of thing.
Yeah.
But not like a main competitor. You need a good player to go along with the deck.
Yeah, I suppose we just got the synchros for it here, but it would be nice to see 2 Spirit.
Right. Because, I mean, I think the deck would be a lot of fun to play.
Yeah.
I mean, Tour Guide to 3 is another thought. Because not a lot of decks are running Tour Guide at this point. And so, I mean, you have Dark World. That's about the only one you see it consistently in.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, a 3rd Tour Guide wouldn't really hurt anyone. The ranked 3s are kind of...
ranked 3 is not scaring anyone right now.
I mean,
Sandian, the best target, is gone. So that's really your argument for bringing back Tour Guide to 3. I don't think it'd do much, really.
Well, I mean, like, you see as Zen mains now, you can get around it. I mean, Black Ship has been reprinted now. There's a lot of outs to stuff like that. And so you don't see 3 Tour Guides really hurting anything.
Yeah.
Next up, people have been sort of talking about limiter removal, especially with Cyber Dragon support coming out. But at the same time, to me, it's kind of a one-of card, very similar to an Honest type thing. And as long as we have an Honest, I don't see limiter removal getting hit.
See, I don't know. It works for your whole field. Yeah, it's not an automatic win, but like an automatic get over the monster like Honest is, and you can't play it without using it on the field during your opponent's turn. But I think at the same time, it's nuts. It's very sacky. Like a lot of these cards that just go away, like Gateway. They're getting rid of these ridiculous cards, and I think they could follow that trend and get rid of Limiter. I don't think any deck needs Limiter. I think, you know, give me a card carrier, that deck is fine on its own. It doesn't need that.
And I mean, Cyber Dragon support does seem to be fairly self-sufficient without it, even.
Yeah, I mean, I just don't think it's needed. It could go. I don't really care one way or the
other. So next up, Heavy and Trunade. I would like to see one of the two of those back in the game, to be perfectly honest. I mean, I like some sort of back row destruction that's blanket. It punishes the opponent for setting, like, set 5, summon card car, or T-King. I mean, like, there should be some out to that.
There are two arguments. There are two sides of this. I think the world is pretty split. I am on the no heavy side, and no Trunade. Because Trunade's an OTK enabler. It's very hard to stop.
Well, see, at the same time, though, if they did bring Trunade back, I would definitely like to see Gores at 2. Because, like, there should be, like, at least some cost to, okay, your opponent compulses their entire back row, then they have to be at least afraid of running into a Gores.
So you're probably not running a Gores in a deck with heavy back row is the thing. And
with a Trunade, I don't know.
And heavy, and you need to run Starlight Road, and that's a card you're literally running because of heavy. You can't draw it at the right time. You draw it when there's not heavy. It's just kind of dumb.
There are other cards that Starlight Road stops. You have Torrential Tribute, you have Dark Hole. There are other things. It's not just Heavy Storm, though.
It's true, but I don't know. I just don't think it's worth the main on those. And you never can draw them at the right time. It's just like, why do we have the card that's going to influence the cards in the main deck? I don't know. I like the format without heavy. I think they did the right route. They hit all our good traps. We've got about a 10 trap lineup of solid traps. They hit our stun cards like Thunder King. They hit Rabbit. So they kind of took out a lot of the stun in compensation for getting rid of heavy, and I think it's worked pretty well, personally. But
I mean, next up we have Magician of Faith. I mean, I could see that coming back to 1 and not really breaking the game. I mean, there are certain cards that it could bring back that could really change things. At the same time, it is a flip effect, and you have to get that off. I mean, the only deck that could really see abusing it would be Spellbooks.
With Fate, too. Flipping it back down.
Well, they have Fate, you have Tsukiyomi, and you have Book of Moon, or essentially the 3 ways to flip it over.
And I mean, getting back a spell, while our best spells are gone, the power of getting back a spell is still very solid. And it really just has to get run over by battle, you get the flip effect. Even getting back, you have Book of Moon and MST. Heck, if it gets Dark Hole, that's really good. It doesn't need to be Monster Reborn for it to be great. I mean, I think the deck should probably stay gone, but if it was at 1, it wouldn't break the game.
And I mean, I don't see very many decks actually even running it still because there's a flip effect. I mean, it's not that splashable, in my opinion. I mean, it's a weak monster. Well, it's a weak monster. You have to risk drawing it at an inopportune time where you could be going something for your actual strategy.
That's true. I guess we'd see there. And then some things that were suggested by other YouTubers. We got Tribe Infecting Virus suggested by Negative Capital G. I said no. No, it's broken in Mermails. You discard 1, you get effect, and you get to regeki your opponent's field, potentially if they've got the same type. And then you go into Aqua Spirit and Bahamut Shark and do your crazy plays there.
Or just any rank 4 deck in general could theoretically use it.
It's a really good card with potential to clear your opponent's field. I don't know why we need the card. I think it should stay gone. And then Galactic God saying Sinister Serpent should come back. And I was like, that's even worse in Mermails.
Well, in Mermails, but then you also have other decks that can tech it just as easily. Because, I mean, Phoenix Wing Wind Blast has been around a lot this format, as well as, I mean, other cards like Hysteric Party. There's anything where there's a discard attached to it as a cost. I mean, it's no longer a cost. And plus, if you aren't drawing into monsters, you can set that as a wall that comes back every turn that blocks 1 attack. I mean, it's a very versatile card, and I don't think the game needs it, at least not at the moment.
No, I think it's just a bit too abusable. And then Thousand Eyes Restrict, people have talked about this for a long time. And the main card, I mean, the reason it's not here right now is it's Infusion.
Yeah, I mean, with that, being able to pay 1,000 life points, summon Thousand Eyes Restrict, and then remove a monster, essentially send it to grave without being destroyed, it's really broken.
Yeah.
Like, that combo alone should keep it banned for quite a while.
Yeah, it's basically just a spell removal without destruction, which is very, very good. And then I also have the extra deck Trishula, which is back in the LCG.
Right. I mean, it's back in the LCG. Again, we haven't heard major outcries of please ban this again. They have a new ban list. It's still there.
It's still there. They didn't change anything in their ban list, which is interesting. But I think we could get it here. It wouldn't do a lot. It's 3-card investment, and your opponent can just head up in Failure, Breakthrough, Fiendish, and then you just minus yourself to make a monster, which is now just 27 meter. Because, they can stop the effect.
I mean, yeah, there's a lot of ways to stop it. I mean, another thing is number 16, Shockmaster. I mean, it is banned. It wasn't banned in the OCG.
It's true.
And I mean, it being limited to 1, I don't think would do a whole lot. I mean, decks that ran it only ran 1 generally anyways. But at the same time, I mean, things like Evil Swarm could make it in a turn and shut off a lot of things. But I mean, again, it was just an out to certain decks that for bad matchups.
Yeah, I think it was just kind of the shutdown card that they like to take those away. Kind of like when they hit Macro, Defissure, and Soul Drain, which are all at 1 right now. Who knows if
well, I mean, at the same time, that's also, in my opinion, part of taking away our Heavy Storm.
I mean, it's also part of the stun aspect, like the Thunder King, but...
Well, and going along with stun, I think Vanity's Emptiness could see getting hit.
Oh, yes, Vanity's. I think that will be on the list. And it will. It will be on the list. It could be as far as banned. I've heard people asking for it banned, because it's kind of like a Royal Oppression, which you can shut off on your own. Or it could be at 1, it could be at 2. I think it should be probably at 1.
I mean, at least for now, if not worse later.
It's like a free solemn. It's nuts, so
yeah, just the fact that your opponent can take and flip that after you've already done your cost for whatever, and then it shuts off special summonings. Comes their turn, they can MST it, they can, if they're playing Drillers, they just discard effect or something.
Yeah,
I mean,
just send from grave.
So many ways to get around it and just break it, so they can start special summoning.
It's just a dumb card. It should go. So I guess in the OCG they have Grand Mole and Gores both at 2. I mean, you mentioned Gores earlier. I think Gores should stay at 1. Gores is very powerful. But Mole, I want it to. I think that
it's a good side deck card.
Yeah.
Especially with the Kiwi lock still being prevalent.
I want to get rid of that lock. I think that's good. And then Gladiator Beast Bestiari is at 2 in the OCG as well.
I mean, like, they got it back right before they got their new Glad Beast support in Legacy.
Primal Origins is coming out. Okay. We don't know yet what it does, but
at the same time, it is another Glad Beast card. And I mean, I could see that coming back to 2 here with this next next ban list, which should take us through Primal Origins.
Yeah, it wouldn't be a huge problem. I mean, it's just enabling more Geyserys spam. It helps the deck with the spell trap removal. It would be good to have it too for that deck. And I can see it happening as well.
Wind Up Carrier to 1. I mean, Wind Ups to me seem like they were hit really hard, and they've done nothing since. I mean, I can see that coming back to 1, not doing a whole lot. I mean, they can't go through the full loop with just 1 of those, and so I mean, it would be reasonable to see that back.
Zen Mighty. I mean, with Wind Ups not doing much, I think that we could try 1. I don't think it'll happen in this list. I think it's still a little too soon. Wind Ups have obviously had their time, but I wouldn't be surprised if, say, next list they bring it back to 1 for a present for Mr. Prestidigitation.
And then last but not least, Rabbit and T-King. I mean, with Spells becoming a more budget-based deck, I could almost see Thunder King coming back to 2, but at the same time, Konami's gave us a pseudo Thunder King recently.
True mistake. Mistake. Yeah, I could shut that down. But Thunder King itself is I think he was part of the stun cards they hit.
Right.
And we'll have to see what route they go with that. I mean, because the OCG has heavy and we don't. We have kind of a very different format because of that.
Well, and I mean, the fact that he can also negate is part of the reason I can see him not coming back relatively soon.
He can negate, he stops searching, and he's a 19 beater to sit on. So he's just a good card.
Right, plus he's light, so he can drop Honest, just to top it all off.
To give it more broken, yeah.
And then Rabbit, I could see Dino Rabbit coming back at some point because, I mean, I don't know, to me, Rabbit at 1 is good for a couple of decks because right now Noble Knights can use it and Evil Swarm can use it. And those are the big 2 decks with vanillas. At the same time, after Worlds go around, so maybe next September's ban list or something, I can see Rabbit going back to 2 to let us try out Dino Rabbit again.
Yeah, I agree. I think that they'll give us another shot at Rabbit decks. It made Vanilla's playable.
Right, which is something that you don't see very often.
Maybe the Blue Eyes Structure deck, but outside of that, Vanillas, I don't see play.
But I think that's just about it. That covers a vast majority of the list, our thoughts, opinions, discussions for next format.
In under 20 minutes.
So, thanks for watching, guys. As always, Luso and Psychic Wizard signing out for Team D Plus Gaming.
See ya.